We went through Bez Hashem the Barichas, the connection between Spheres Oimer and the Shavuos. We actually gave already 3 shurim on the topic. I want to go back a step. We said that the Bedika of Pesach is connected Bedika Schurim Mesadakim, instead of Nefesh Chaya. I think we mentioned in passing about the matzah. The matzah, I don't want to get into the matzah, the first day of Pesach. After the Hefsek Taira, B'dikas Chur Mesadakim, starts the first day of Pesach. The first day of Pesach is, we eat matzah, the mitzvah, it's a matzah. Now, the mitzvah to eat matzah corresponds with the Shuvas Nekiyim. Why? So first of all, matzah is lucky from anything else. It doesn't have any, has nothing in there. It's just flour and water. Doesn't even have salt. Doesn't even have yeast, and matzah is actually white. So it's made libum. You made libum. You made the levanim, which you wear design naqiyim. And it's pure matzah. And that obviously goes a little deeper. If there's no sa'ar, the sa'ar is, Chazal says, sa'ar shab'isa, called, the Yetzirah is called sa'ar shab'isa. The zuama, with the nuachash, inflicted in the chava, its name in Chazal is called sa'ar shab'isa. That zuama of a person is the sa'ar of the person. And everything's blown up. That matzah doesn't have it. All this want to speak about it. So the zuama, as we spoke about, was the shirish of the tumah, tumas nida. The matzah, which is clean from the sa'ar, doesn't have the zuama of a nachash. That's because it's zayin naqiyim. Very, very, very clear, very simple. Now I just want to take it to the next step. I found, looking into this, I thought, it's very interesting. The blood libels on the first day of Pesach, the first night of Pesach. Yidden, I heard Modegist, Matzil Salman spoke about this, Varichas, famous Rabbi Chanan on this. Matzil Salman used to say a story from his brother-in-law, between him and his brother-in-law, that one year his brother-in-law came to his parents for Yontif, Pesach, and after Yontif, they went to Menachem Ovel, an old Rav from Wien, that he was in Gateshead at that time, somewhere around there. And they went to his brother-in-law was also from Wien or somewhere from there, and they knew each other. His brother-in-law and this Rav lost his wife, and the Rav was asking his brother-in-law, so how was Yontif? He came to Yishveh. He asked him, so what did he do with the children? He says, where did he sleep? He said he slept a couple of houses down the block, across the street, wherever it was. So what did he do with the children? He said, by night, they brought over the child, Yontif, carry. And he said, the Rav, the elder Rav, the older Rav, got white like a ghost. And he told him, "I weiß nicht, als bei uns trug wir nicht kein Kunde in the gas of the Seder Nacht. You don't know that you don't go with children, small children, Pesach by night." He got mamash frightened like a ghost. And Marcel explained that because like 1,000 years or more, there was xeris of Alilas Dam, the blood libels. Every now and then it popped up, which didn't make any sense, but that's how it was. And the blood libel was they would take a child from a Goyish child, a shechta, take the blood to the matzah, and they had this minig not to carry children by night of Seder in the street because they were scared it's going to turn into a blood libel. This person's taking children to use his blood. And even after the war, this Rav was brought up with such pachad of the Seder with such pachad that he couldn't comprehend how they actually carried children by night by Seder in the street. So that was the matzav of the night of the Seder Lal Shemurim, which is supposed to be Lal Shemurim, and it was a pachad. It's fascinating. The Torah is says in Eicha Malkus Rebbe Goim Ein Torah. There's no Torah in Golos. There's no Torah. It's supposed to be Lal Shemurim. It's supposed to be Lal Shemurim, and you see Klal Yisrael sat was Ein Torah. Klal Yisrael sat in Golos, and now Seder, a big part of Golos, in trembling. It was supposed to be Lal Shemurim, they were trembling from a pachad. What's going to be next? Now, famous why what's up is this Gzeira doesn't make any sense. It has to do with the Vayitli Ketante Badam from the Shvatim. But I thought, based on what we're saying, based on what we're saying over, what we're saying, everything we're saying is saying over from Chachamenu Zechanu Levracha, that the whole process of Osiris Ha'omer has to do with Shivas Nekiyim. L'chayra, if there's a problem of the first night by Seder night that has to do with Dam, l'chayra that has to do with Dam Nidus. Something to do with Dam Nidus. It's not a mikra coincidence that the first night, which is starting the Shiv Nekiyim from Dam Nida, there's a blood libel. Where? In the matzah. The matzah, which is supposed to be the Shivas Nekiyim is supposed to start with the matzah. The Mei Libel is supposed to start with the matzah. In there was a hashash of Dam Nidus, of Dam. Isn't that exactly a coincidence? Obviously, Shreita and the Kudah screams that this has to do with the Zayin Nekiyim. And I did a quick search on Eitzah Chachma, obviously, as usual. And Baruch Hashem was mechavan ad emes. So, 185 years ago, it's in the year Tofresh, I think, around there, in Damascus, in Syria, in Damascus, there was a huge blood libel, tremendous blood libel, and all the Rabbanim were put into jail. It was Tsaras Teruras, and they were tortured, intolerable torture. And there was a big tzaddik, who was the Rav of Damascus, Av Bezdin. His name was Rabbi Yaakov Antibi. He was the Rosh Av Bezdin of Damascus at that time. He was one of the Gedolei Yisrael. He ended up going up there to Israel eventually. And I found that in the Sefer Yehuda Yala brings down, Yehuda Chaim Nekayim, also from Damascus, that he heard from Shmati Arav Ateres Reishi Morid Asra Dain here Yaakov Antebi, that he heard the name of Rabbi Yaakov Antebi, who was the Rav in the time of the blood libel, that he says that the reason why there was a blood libel in his town was because when he came, they told him, even before he came, they told him there was one of the rich people in Damascus was Shamish, had intimate relations with his wife while she was in Niddah. And the Rav, he himself, didn't call him to be ma'anish him. He didn't punish him. And he says because there was a pagam, he was a big tzaddik. He says because there was a pagam of Dam Nidas, that's why there was a blood libel. He says all this I heard from people who heard from David Halevi, who heard himself from the Rav Yaakov Antibi. So here the Rabbi Yaakov Antibi from the Mesek, the Rosh Av Bezdin, he says that the reason why there was a blood libel and he had suffered so much pain, so much sorrows, that was because of a blood, because they were nichshel in this nidus in the city, and he wasn't moiche. And so too is brought down on a sefer and Akdama to bring down that Moshe Matafaro asked him this question. They called Moshe Matafaro. Moshe Matafaro was the one that they got to mix in, and he was able to save all the tzaddikim, all the rabbanim, all Klal over there in Damascus. And he told him, "Tell me, what's this? Why did this happen? This is not stam." He said that you suffered more pain than Chanayim Shol Azariah and Sarah Riga Malchus. You suffered so much. Must be a reason for it. And he gave him Kabbalistic reason. But within that reason, he said that because there was a person, someone that was boil shenidus, the midas hadid was a makatrik, and that was ma'akev the gula. He said the ganze zach, but he definitely put that in also over there that had to do with it. And Chaim Pelagi, who lived in that time also, I think he was involved. He wrote a sefer actually to Reb Chasama Yishem Tefaro about this blood libel, thanking him for saving the Damascus from the blood libel. He wrote a sefer about it. He doesn't mention this. I didn't find this Nakuda, but I saw Rabbi Yitzchak Tzabri brings out from Chaim Pelagi Taka also this idea that blood libel came because of Dam Nidus. And this is very, very appropriate. The time for this einish, and this time is because there was some p'gam in Dam Nidus. So in the time with Klal Yisrael's right then and there, Klal Yisrael's being nichshel in Dam Nidus, the time that it shows, because it's the time that you're cleaning yourself. When you clean yourself, when you go to the hospital, then they see all the problems. Pesach is the time of Leidas Klal Yisrael. We went out in the schus of where no preachers and there was Shem in this. Now is the time that we're under the screen, and that's why the blood libel came to be meramis on the michshel of Issa Nidas. And I want to be marked of this Indian a little bit. I want to be marked of this Indian a little bit. Second. Sorry. So I want to be marked of this Indian a little bit that what. What's that has to do with this? The Gemara says, Masechus Brachos, Yaakov Be'idi it says in one place, Vayir Yaakov Moed. In another place it says, Hina Neichish Laticha V'chal Asher I'll be showing you wherever you go. It's a steer. Will Hashem be showing him? Will Hashem not be showing him? Why was he afraid if Hashem was said it's to be showing him? So the Yaakov it says in the pasuk Ad Yavar Amcha Hashem Ad Yavar Amcha Kenisa, and Ad Yavar Amcha Hashem is going on the first gula. Ad Yavar Amcha Kenisa is going on the second gula, and the pasuk is putting them together. They were supposed to be the same type of gula. Bayis Sheni was supposed to have same fanfare, the same zgalus or kiss like there was the first gula, but what they weren't zeiche. Why? Because there was gorim hachet. Rashi says the chet from Noshim Nechriyos was goyim the Bayis Sheni, that they should not be able to have all the nisim and the flows of the Bayis Rishon. That's what it says in the Zohar Kodesh. It says the same thing. They were married goyim, and that's why they weren't zeicher to the geula on the madriga of the first Bayis Rishon. And we know that the chatoim of preachers of Nosh Mechriyos and Dam Nidus and all these halachas and Taras Yisrael of issues go together, and we see from here that the whole reason why there was no bias, there was no gula in the second bias, was because of this pigam of issues ketkuna should have been the right way. Rabbi Yisrael, the original Rebbe said in the last Pesach of his life, that I'm scared that our generation is not going to be zeichet for the geula in the way of Nisim and the Flois that wasn't in Tzis and Tzrayim. Why? It's going to have to be the geula like it was in times of Ezra derech hateva. Because the same reason why there was a pagam mishpach, there was a pagam and ishus in the first bias, in the second bias. That's why they weren't zeichet to the Madriga from the geula shleima of the bias rishon of the Moshe Rabbeinu. They only zeichet with koresh or shusam and koresh. So too the original Rebbe Gezak in our generation, it's not going to work like that either. We're going to have to first go to Eretz Yisrael. It's going to come through Nisim ben Istarim. It's going to be with Derech HaTeva. Why? Zok the original, because they're not Nizir, Loy Nizar, Metaras, Mishpach Chashalom. And there's so many Chayv crises. So that's why Einam Yechayil Mahasik as Agul Harachnis Ad De Nisim Aflois. It's going to have to come through Derech HaTeva. He says we're going to go to Eretz Yisrael with Derech HaTeva. And afterwards, the Eibush is going to take away all these Mordim and Parshim. I guess he means to say all these Chayv crises that didn't do tshuva. Hashem's going to get rid of them, just like in the Bayis Shani, they get rid of them. So we see from the original clearly he's talking about Boil Nidis, Taras Mashpacha, Chayv Krisis, that was Ma'akiv, our Gula right now. The world is changing. Hashem's going to bring the Gula, Ba'oifen, Nisim Ministarim, and eventually maybe we'll Zechet and Nisim Niglim, we'll for sure be Zechet and Nisim Niglim eventually, because it's a bunch of Nevi'as. But the beginning of the Gula is going to be just like by a shiny, because we're not in Madrege, Machmas to Pekam, the Boil Nidis, and people that are Machshul, the Nishul Klal Yisrael. So that we'll see again over here, the same side. So what do we see from here? What we see from here is a Medriga that because of the when people in Nishul, in Ishus, in Dam Nidis, in Noshim Nechriyas, that made that there shouldn't be a Geula Shlema like the Bayis Sheni. So we see that the difference between Bayis Rishon and Bayis Sheni is because of Dam Nidis. We see what the goal is because of Dam Nidis. And Pesach is the time the clouds went out like the Bayis Rishon. Okay, which is the Bayis time of the Bayis, that is the Geula of the Bayis Rishon. They went out because of the Eibush saw there was no princess and they were Shaimanidas. So we're sitting in Galus. Why are we sitting in Galus? Because of all these Chatoim. And now the Nekuda of the Geula every year, the Nekuda of the Geula is in this on Pesach night. So it's in this the Pekam of Avoy Nidus is in this then because of this reason. Because if we're in Galus, like we said, Malkus Rebbe Goyim in Torah, what's being Goyim, the Pachad in Galus, that we don't have a Geula Shlema is, and the Geula is coming very hard and very lot of tzaras. What's the reason behind this? Even though we know we believe in Hashem, they took us out of Mitzrayim. That's the Avoynidus. That's what we see over here, and that's how we saw all along that the Geula has to do with appreciativeness and as much as a person strengthens himself in Taras Mishpacha, that's how much Geula he has. There's a lot of Madrigas. This goes deep, and this Geula Madriga. And the more we strengthen ourselves, the more we're Zoiche to the Geula Shlema in the right way, everyone in his own life, and then Oifim Kali also. And I'll end with this Nekuda that we find in the Zohar Kodesh, that the Vayikri Yigimel on the base, that the Zohar Kodesh says that Tochazi Yosef begin the Notel High Bris, Vaybola Shakle Bezochel Yikr by Alma. Yosef, because he was Shomer, he was Kedushas Abris, and he didn't lie to it. He was Zeichet to all his covet. He became the king of the biggest, the Meshno Melech, the prime minister, he became the Meshno Melech of the whole world, because Mitzrayim was shown from the whole world. He and especially when in times of the hungry years, those hungry years that he wasn't, everyone had to come on to him. He was the major malchus. Why was he the major malchus? Because he was shomer the kedusha, his son kedusha. Zay goes on and says that Shlomo HaMelech lost his malchus. What he got from David HaMelech, through by Yeravam, you got it from his son Malchus by his son. Why? Because he married Nashim Nechrias. He wasn't shomer so much to bris as his father David. Obviously, you have to understand that itself. But the Pkam of bris makes it lose Malchus. The tikkun of bris makes us get Malchus. And as we mentioned earlier, different time, and I found another book we mentioned from Chaim Vital. Now I see from the Bechor Shor and Tosis from Shem the Rekeach that dam nidus shanoshim shamaris and bagidus peschem ba'aleim dam nidus, that they show me dam nidus and they show the maksamim to their husbands is instead of the dam bris of a man. So just like by the dam nidus is about the geula shleima of Kalal Yisrael. It has to do with how Bayis Rishon was one type of geula because it was shomer kedushas dam nidus, and Bayis Sheni wasn't as much, and geula shleima is not going to start off as much because of the pekam nidus. So too by a man, his own kedusha and his own, that was in Kalal Yisrael as a nation. As we spoke, between the woman refers to the nation, and Avram Yitzchak Yaakov referred to Yechidim. So to every person by himself is zeich the malchus and loses malchus based on the madriga of kedusha he has. We should come towards Heel B'Yontif for Shvius. We should always zeiche to be as Shiv Nekiyim. We always, every hakel, everything goes according to the end. We should zeiche to shomer all these halachas. Karoyim, we should zeiche to kabel the El Malch Shemayim Naasim Nishma. We should table the mikveh to zeiche with them the Greisa Oiris from the Shiv Nekiyim, the huge Shiv Nekiyim from Klal Yisrael. We should all zeiche to all goods.